Big football news and big money for Trevor Lawrence. A 5-year, $275 million extension agreed to last night between Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's $55 million per year on an annual average basis. That, alongside Joe Burrow, makes Trevor Lawrence the highest paid player in the history of the National Football League.
If you are, let's just say, because again, it's all theoretical at this point, a top 10 level quarterback, or let's just call it a franchise quarterback, the team has identified you as the guy to lead that. This is what the contracts are talking about and how much they cost at this point. Because I know everybody goes, oh, Patrick Mahomes should get $80 million. It's just a matter of when you sign that contract. And typically, yes, you can rework deals for guys like Patrick Mahomes and give them more money. But it's understanding, like when you go get your contract, you reset the market. By the time your contract technically comes up in 2 to 3 years, it looks like you're going to be woefully underpaid as long as you're a starting quarterback. So nobody should wake up today and say, oh my goodness, I can't believe 5 years, 275 is the going rate for Trevor Lawrence. Boy, you overpaid for him. No, you didn't. That's just the price of the brick, as we say, continues to go up. Yep. It's the same thing with the housing market. Guy down the street sells a house for X amount of dollars. That's your starting point on you selling your house so you can move. And the guy that's going to do that after you move, the same exact thing. Don't be surprised by these numbers. Just take a look at the organizations that have drugged their feet here on some of these big contracts. Dallas Cowboys were looking at you. It's unbelievable if you would have just got these deals done. I'm not even talking about then years ago, just weeks ago, how much money you would save. Do you remember when they hit there like, wow, Jalen Hurts is going to get around $50 million. That's unbelievably incredible. He's not even in the top 5 anymore at this point. Why? Because the Philadelphia Eagles went first here and knowing the next quarterbacks are going to make more money, and more money. Don't be surprised by these numbers anymore.
It's the dangerous part of the waiting game. Maybe your natural thought is Trevor Lawrence played for Urban Meyer in year number 1. We'll give him a pass despite 17 interceptions. He was great in year number 2, his first under Doug Peterson, leading the Jacksonville Jaguars to come from behind to win the AFC South and that come from behind playoff victory over the LA Chargers. 25 touchdowns to only 8 interceptions, more than 4,100 passing yards. That was the vision of the number 1 overall pick and the prince that was promised well before the 2021 NFL Draft. But last year was a struggle in 2023. The first time in his NFL career that he even missed a game. And he was banged up down the final month and a half when the Jaguars stumbled, lost the division, allowing C.J. Stroud in Houston to take it for the Texans. 21 touchdowns to 14 INTs a season ago. So maybe, and it's a natural and common sense thought, your idea is, well, Trevor Lawrence, 3 years of his 5-year rookie deal. The Jags picked up his 5th-year team option, under contract for 2 years. Why wouldn't you wait at least to see how he performs in 2024 if he truly looks like the face of the franchise that you want to invest in moving forward? The waiting game is dangerous for 2 main reasons. One, the price of the brick going up. If somebody, and I believe somebody will, a quarterback this offseason outside of T-Law is paid north of $55 million, then you're going to have to pay him way more next year if he has a successful 2024 campaign. And number 2, you pay him now that $55 million per year and $275 million total with $200 million guaranteed. 5-year contract extension is actually averaged out over the final 2 years of his rookie contract when the per year value is substantially less, so that your burden on the franchise over 7 years of Trevor Lawrence is not nearly as bad. It is why you pay up, and it is why you pay now, even, and I think it's natural once again, if you have questions about Trevor Lawrence truly being the guy for Jacksonville for the next 5 years plus.
And also, let's take a look at what's the theory behind waiting here. Like, is Jacksonville actually so diabolical? Like, look, we're not going to sign you this year. You know what? We hope you suck next year so we can get you at $100 million discount and then we'll sign you. Well, who would do that? Like, why would you want that? Like, oh, well, thank God he was bad last year. We missed the playoffs. Now we'll sign him cheaper and maybe he's not a good quarterback and we'll never sign him again. If you identified this guy as your franchise guy and you expect him to play well, and nothing really from his career says like, wow, that's going to be a major bust at this point. We all thought he was a generational quarterback coming in. Now he's the talent surrounding him. He just has to prove it on the field. But I always love that. Like, wait on what? Like, again, with Dak Prescott and Jerry Jones. You know Dak is going to have a very good regular season every single year. So Jerry Jones waiting on the fact that Dak is going to be terrible. And we're like, oh, you know what? We hope Trevor Lawrence goes down with a devastating ACL injury so he can save on his contract next year. It's ludicrous why these teams wait around here. Right. If it's your quarterback, you feel comfortable in your future with them, sign them immediately when they're eligible for an extension. You will save money in the long term. Like, again, if you signed Trevor Lawrence back in March, you saved millions of dollars on your salary cap. They waited, and look what it cost them now.
Yeah, if you're giving somebody a prove-it year, a head coach or a player, namely a quarterback, your hope is, right, they would have success. And if they do indeed prove it, then you're only going to have to pay them more. And not a couple of dollars more, a couple of $1 million more per year. Now, for Trevor Lawrence and Jacksonville. Last offseason, Donnie, the Jags were the favorites to win the AFC South. They were the young up-and-coming team within the AFC. Could they be the team that could contend for a conference crown? Now that conversation is C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans, and the Jags with a win total of 8.5 and a plus 124 playoff price are kind of the forgotten team within that division. What is your expectation for Trevor Lawrence and Jacksonville this season?
I do like them this year. Now, having said that, do you like them to get to the AFC Championship game? I don't know about that, but sometimes you like last year, they were the it team in that division and didn't succeed. Sometimes they take a step back, like, okay, nobody's paying attention to us. There's a lot of talent on that team. And again, it's balanced on Trevor Lawrence having a productive season. I think he will. I think they'll do some good things here and make the playoffs coming up next season.
More news around the NFL, some interesting news in college football and collegiate athletics up next. The long-awaited tampering violations of the potential penalties for both the Atlanta Falcons and the Philadelphia Eagles have been handed down, or at least in the ATL. The Falcons were found to have tampered in the offseason acquisitions of Kirk Cousins, Darnell Mooney, and Charlie Werner. They have been fined $250,000 as an organization and probably most severely lost a fifth-round pick for next year's 2025 NFL Draft. Terry Fontenot, the general manager in Atlanta, has also been fined himself individually $50K. However, your birds, DRS, no sufficient evidence that they tampered. Just James Franklin yapping his mouth. But other than that, no official tampering violations for Philly.
Let's get something straight. It was a couple weeks ago, I believe we were talking about college football. And I told you people out here, kids, look, maybe you're already out of school right now and you're listening. I'm going to tell you right now, cheat on everything you can. Cheat on your test, cheat on every single thing in life because it will never, ever catch up to you. You had a general manager battling for his life down in Atlanta. You know what he said to himself? I got to cheat and make sure I get Kirk Cousins because if I don't think I'm going to have a winning season and I'm probably going to be fired. Let me reach out, break every single rule I can in the NFL regarding free agency. And you know what they did? They fined me $50,000 when I probably make well over $1 million per year. And also, they took away a fifth-round draft pick, which if anybody doesn't know what a fifth-round draft pick is, that is a practice squad backup guard that will probably never play for your franchise. And instead, you know what you did? You reset the market, got your quarterback, and will probably win. Moral of the story, in any part of life, just continue to cheat because it pays off. And we're proven by this, Ben, every single day.
Kids, if you're listening and you're on summer break, just start the cheating philosophy next year when the school year returns.
Hack into your school and change your A's for your B's to A's. Do it because you know what? If they catch you, they'll probably still give you the A for initiative there. So there you go. Yeah.
Allegedly. Let's not tie anything back to the early line. That's Donnie Wright's side. Ben Stevens disavows. Listen, draft capital is valuable. Even if it is a fifth-round pick, you never know what that selection could have been or could it have been packaged in a deal somewhere down the line. Who's to say? But the punishment's not nearly all that severe. And if you think Atlanta and maybe Philly were the only ones maybe negotiating before the league year officially begins, you're wrong. All 32 clubs do it. Just some were dumber to say it out loud, like James Franklin and like Kirk Cousins in his own introductory press conference. Just like kids, if you do cheat and your parents ask, say that Donnie Wright's side said something, but that was it, and don't admit to it. By the way, one thing that the early line as a whole will disavow is advocating for school children to cheat. One thing the early line as a whole will be behind, can we sponsor a conference in college sports? The Early Line MAC Conference, the Early Line Conference that features Kent State, Akron, Bowling Green, and so on and so forth, because that is the future of college football and college sports as a whole. We got these breaking news reports yesterday from ESPN's Pete Thamel and Yahoo Sports' Ross Dellinger and Action Network's Brett McMurphy that the Big 12 was in conversations, and Conference Commissioner Brett Yormark pitched to his conference chancellors and presidents last month in May they could sell the naming rights not to just a stadium, but to the conference as a whole. And Brett McMurphy followed that Allstate was the main corporation the Big 12 was negotiating with for a licensing and naming rights deal that would be somewhere in the ballpark of $30 to $50 million. Do you like the idea, Donnie?
Yeah, and you know what? This is such a good idea for college sports that the professional ranks are going to take notice of this. Hey, we can sell the NFC and the AFC to, let's just say, Visa and MasterCard, and how much money we can make on top of that. This is the new realm that we're dealing with in college sports here. It is an arms race, and it's an arms race to make money. I can't even fault him anymore. Like the Big 12, like what are they saying? Like the Big would go away, and then you just put the Dr. Pepper 12 conference. I mean, that's really what we're getting to. But again, it doesn't really... Yeah, exactly. It doesn't bother me all that much at this point because I understand where we're going in college sports, and whoever can make the most amount of money, go ahead and make it. So I can't, usually in the past, I would get upset. I'm like, I love tradition. But you know what I would do, Ben? Hear me out on this. If I won Powerball tomorrow, I would buy the Rose Bowl naming rights, but you know what I would do to it? I just wouldn't play the game. I would eat the hundreds of millions of dollars every single season just so they wouldn't play that game anymore. That's the type of stuff I want to invest in. Invest in ruining bowl season, and we'll be better off for it. How about that?
Okay, first off, buy then a bowl that happens a week and a half before the Rose Bowl, because in the 12-team CFP era, the Rose Bowl is always going to be included in the college football playoff rotation. So buy something else. To Donnie's point, the bottom line is always the focus. In college football is the main economic engine in collegiate athletics. Why this all seems like it is happening in such a rapid rate is because the NCAA has lost. The fraudulent business model that has gone in front of the court, even the highest court in this land, the Supreme Court, and has been slammed down time and again. The facade that was the amateur business model that has been operating for a century in the past decade successfully is now no longer a thing. And that is why everything feels like a money grab. But it is a money grab because this idea of the amateur model has given way to what we always know. It's a business, and it's about making money. And it's a billion-dollar business model in college sports, mainly led by college football. So they are trying to make a buck. It makes sense from that perspective, albeit kind of dumb, and certainly something for us to get accustomed to. My favorite thing with Allstate buying the Big 12 potentially, no deal finalized by the way, is that in the room they're like, hey, can't get rid of 12. Let's call it the Allstate 12 Conference. We don't want to get rid of 12, despite the fact there is now 16 teams in the Big 12, and they haven't had simply 12 since 2010. College sports, man, you can't make it up.
Yeah, they got to change that. And same thing like the ACC. Hey, it's the Atlantic Coast these teams playing. Yeah, you check the new ACC. Now it's basically a national brand. So why not just do away with the 12 altogether? Just call it the All-State Conference. Be done with it. I wouldn't have any issues with that.